Hey, hello. Mm, Nice to see you. Just to get to know each other, how many of you play video games? How many of you are in the industry? And how many of you are trying to get into the industry? Okay, okay. I just needed this to, have the framework. Uh, what I what I'm gonna what I want to talk with you today is a very small segment of gaming that I have a very particular interest in, and that I think is interesting of itself. So it will be part. I know that there was a lot of really good technical and business talks here on the conference. This is more the artsy philosophical part, but also with some really good games. So I hope you like it. And my journey to to explore slow games started about 3 years ago when I started working on this small text game about traveling, and it was a very interesting product because it was part a game, part a book, and part journalism. We worked with real travelers, with journalists, and we made a game that was sort of emotional simulator of how people travel, and that the game was presenting the world as it is today, and was based on real places and sort of real things that happen, not exactly real people, but and it was a very slow game and probably not a game at all, more like a book that you shape when you read. And that get us talking, me and my friends, and because we get this feedback from people who are not gamers, who liked our product, that was the first time that they realized that games could be more than just toys, that games could be, tales of common human experience, that games could give you the same, feelings that books can, or movies can, or good music can, so that games can be culture. And we started talking about it. I started talking about the ideas with other game developers. It got some traction, and after a while I wrote it down, what I learned from this talk, and into sort of slow gaming manifesto. That was not the first time that someone tried to approach this slow culture through the gaming perspective, but somehow this piece I wrote got some traction. And when I was writing it, I thought it could be sort of an idea for the industry, how we can make games or how we can approach making games. And the main ideas behind the slow gaming was that games can challenge not only my skills and reflexes, but also my assumptions and feelings. And that games, some games are bold enough to encourage me to take a break. Most games have all those mechanisms that keep me engaged all the time and just like almost to a point of addiction. But some games are okay with me leaving, taking a break, thinking about what happened in the game and coming back. And I personally like games that let me explore them at my own pace. I don't like to be hurried. I like to have space to make my own opinions. And I like games that give me something to think about, games that become part of my life's experience, and games that help me to grow as a person. So I like games that are slow, and that was the main idea behind the manifesto. And when I wrote it, we started discussing it, and I just scanned the market, Steam and other stores, to see how many games are out there that are slow, that have those ideals. How many games are out there that treat me as an adult, not as just, you know, a kid that wants to play. And I prepared a list of games for you, and I will talk about what struck me in each of those productions. I suppose that the creators of those games do not exactly thought they were making a slow game, but all those games have something, you know, of a slow culture in them. And the first is, of course, Journey. You've probably heard of this game because it was a cult classic on the PS3 and PS4, and now it is ported to PS5. And this is an awesome game with exactly with 0 words. When you are on this giant desert, you see a shining mountain in front of you, and you can do anything. So you probably start just walking, and the game does not force you to do anything. You just go through the desert, and you find your own way. There are things to explore and things to learn, but you don't have to do them. There is sort of platforming mechanics, but it's not challenging at all. It is very relaxing and calming. But what's the most important about this game, in my opinion, is that sometimes along the journey you meet someone, you meet another character walking the same desert, and the character is another player, and you cannot really communicate. All you can do is press one button, and then this uniquely shaped ideogram lights above your head, and the other player has another ideogram, also unique or almost unique, and you can just talk to each other, but when you do it being close to each other, you get some bonuses from it, technically speaking. So it creates this story about people who meet on the life's journey, and they try to communicate. They cannot really understand each other, not really, but the communication is good for them. And this, combining with the whole arc of the game, which I will not spoil. If somebody didn't play Journey, please go and play Journey. It creates this beautiful parallel of what life is. So this is the basic slow game that I can, you know, ask you to play. Then that was our game, Wanderlust Travel Stories. And as you can see, it looked sort of like National Geographic with text. We based it on real pictures. This is a picture from Ushuaia on the way to Antarctic, and one of the guys from our team, he's a sailor and a journalist, and he went to the Antarctica on a yacht, and he brought his own pictures, and we built a fictional story around it. So it was really grounded. It had many words. It was a really large book. It was a story of 5 people during 9 journeys. But what we liked about it the most is it was that people came to us and were saying, this is a game I like to play alone. Because the choices you are asking me to make in this game are not about whether I want to go left or right. You ask about how I feel about something, and I have to decide how I feel about this thing. And sometimes I don't really want anyone to see how I've decided. So that is what really struck me as something that we managed to do. Some people found it a bit boring because it was basically a book, but I think we did quite a good job as far what we wanted to do. And that was the only game that my mom, that is 70-something, she played the game. That was the first my game I've ever played. I've been making games for like 15 years now. And the game was only in English. She's not a good English speaker. She played with her dictionary because she likes traveling and she likes books. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I've played the story to Antarctica. I didn't really like it. It was too cold for me. I don't like when it's cold." So it really must have hit something or create this illusion that you are traveling by yourself. So this is something between literature, journalism, and gaming. The next game, totally different, is Heaven's Vault. This is a game about an archaeologist in space. It's a sort of science fiction, but it's a masterpiece in my opinion. Because this is a game about learning and translating a lost language. Your character will see descriptions in a language that is lost. This is a fictional language created especially for the game, and you have to translate it. And the game gives you a lot of space to do your own translations. And even if you mistranslate something, you understand something differently than it was intended by the writers, the game accommodates for it, and your character talks about this false interpretation, and some things happen because of it. And the whole game is about what we need history for, what we need archaeology for, to whom the history belongs, how we understand the past can shape our future. So it looks cartoonish, but it has this very unique gameplay about translating. And there is a moment in this game when you find a huge book with many stories, and this is close to the end of the game, so you know a lot of language at this point of the language. And I spent like 2 hours just trying to decipher and read the book. So I just got lost reading a book within a game, and it was amazing. And what they also do that is amazing is that there's a new game plus when you end the game. This is a story game, so I thought, why should I play it again? But when you start again, you start with your whole vocabulary that you learned from the previous gameplay, and you get more interesting sentences to translate, and you learn more and more about the history and about the world. And I think that was pretty amazing. Another game is Firewatch. As you can see, some of the slow games do like orange. So Firewatch is a game about someone who's sitting in a tower in a national park in America watching for forest fires. And you go around with a walkie-talkie, and the only person you can talk to is someone on another tower. You never see her, you just hear her voice and you can discuss. And what's amazing about this game is that it plays on your curiosity. You don't have to do anything. You just have those really beautiful vistas. The national park recreated in the game or created in the game is beautiful. You just walk around. When you encounter something that's interesting, you can talk about it through the radio to your friend, or you can ignore it, and the story sort of adapts to it. And then you get bored, you started thinking, maybe something interesting is happening here, maybe there's some, government conspiracy or stuff like this. But in the end, you learn a lot about yourself and about your expectations as a person, not as the character. And yeah, and it's a very beautiful game and very moving. And the next game this is a game that I've been playing during my isolation. And this is a game about this sad little shade that has to wait for his king to awaken. And he has to wait 400 days. And you start the game and you see the timer, 400 days, and the timer is going in real time. And I was like, oh my God. Luckily, this is an idle game, so when you shut it down, the time goes on. And it's a game about sadness, isolation, After some time you get bored, you start exploring this underworld kingdom. Some stuff happen, but mostly the sad little shade is walking around and commenting what it sees, and it is about, you know, this celebrated sadness and despair and tragedy. And it was so cathartic for me because I had to, for some family health reasons, I had to spend year and a half locked in my flat, not really going outside and not meeting anyone in person. And I was playing those games, and it really held me up because the sprite was much more miserable than me. So, and because of those 400 days alone, this is really a game about slowness, about exploring your own relationship with boredom. I really loved it. My wife was quite, I don't know, skeptic about it, but I really loved the game. So if you have 400 days, please try this game. This is a German game. Yeah. So the next game you've probably heard about is Disco Elysium. This is a game made in Estonia. So this is a game that speaks, I think, to all of us who grew or whose parents grew in the influence area of the Soviet Union, because this is a game. This is a very political game. It's a game about transformation, about lost hopes. This is a detective game, so you don't have to, you know, have any political opinions to play it. It is a pretty good noir crime story, but apart from it, it explores topics that most of the games are afraid to explore. This game is widely political, like outrageously political, because all people that you meet have their own opinions about economics, politics, race politics, communism, fascism, and you as a character have to talk with them and express your own opinions. So when I started playing as I always do. I was trying not to take sides, just, you know, say something neutral and avoid expressing any strong opinions. And after some time, I got an achievement from the game, and the achievement was called the world's most despicable centrist. So the game noticed that I was not taking sides and told me, hey, Artur, listen, not taking sides is taking a side. This is also a political opinion. Just think about it. And I got back to solving the crime I was trying to solve, but it really got me thinking. And apart from it, the whole game is narrated by the voices inside the character's head. Like, even when I develop a new skill, like I got stronger, a new voice in my head appears, and when I stand in front of a door and I may have some options, I can try to pick the lock or knock. Suddenly, this physique speaks in my head. Yeah, smash the door, like kick it and break it. This is what adult men do. And I'm like, oh my God, well, I didn't intend it, but, well, that is how I develop my character. He's very physical. He must like it. And so the game never lets me just be. It demands me to take opinions on everything, and I've never met a game that was so outrageous, but I loved it. I just loved it. So this is a very specific game, as you may have noticed from what I was saying, but I think it's great. And the last game I want to talk to you about is Before Your Eyes. And this is a treasure. It is a very experimental game. This is a PC game, and you have to have a camera in your computer because you play the game by blinking. This is a game about thinking about your life and there are moments from your life playing before your eyes, but when you blink, they go away. Time skips forward, and a new scene begins. And that's just the beginning. There are more things that you can do with your blinking, and the game is heartbreaking. It's beautiful, but it's heartbreaking, and this would be a slight spoiler. I have pretty good control over my blinking for some reason. So the game, to a point, the game was not hard for me. I had pretty good control over what was happening. But you know, when you start crying, you suddenly start blinking, and the game is ready for it. And it was an amazing experience that made me think about how I think about myself, about what's important in life, you know, small little things. And so I encourage you to play the game, but this game is heartbreaking. I have to give you this disclaimer because my friend recommended this game to his wife, but without the disclaimer, and she didn't speak to him for 2 days because she said she was so shaken and broken and traumatized by what happened in the game that he should have warned her. So, but yeah, and from the designer's perspective, from a designer's perspective, things that they do in the game with just the blinking, with just the blinking controls, are really awesome. So as you can see, there are many games out there from many different genres: experimental games, huge RPG, crime games, adventure games, text games, narrative exploration games, idle games. But there are games out there that cater to those slow feelings that can let you grow and can let you explore some adult themes. So after playing those games, and after I was asked to come here and talk to you about slow gaming, I started thinking back on the manifesto, and I went back to the beginning of the slow movement, to the Italy in 1980s when the first slow food restaurant was open, and the food there was supposed to be sustainable, local, organic, and wholesome. That was the idea for the slow food, and I thought, what does it mean for games? And that would be my own personal opinion, like some kind of maybe even an artistic statement, that for me, we have enough those bleak anti-utopias out there. There are enough games about how shitty the world is. I personally really need more games that are about hope and inspiration and what people can do to make the world better. So that's one of the pillars that I would build like the slow gaming movement on. The other is that I like games that are organic, games that explore our, the widest range of our personal experiences. I think that our travel game had its moments because it was rooted in what happened to some of us or to the people we know, or at least to the people we interviewed. And there were many games out there, you will probably find them sooner or later, that are rooted in really personal experiences. And I think there is this pulp of pop culture out there. Everyone knows how a cop game looks like, how an action game looks like, American soldiers shooting to people with different skin color, or I don't know, knights in shiny armors fighting to save the world. But I think this is something that many people have already eaten and, passed on, and then other people have eaten it and passed on. And I need experiences that are more organic, that stem from who we are as people, because every one of us has, you know, their own set of experiences. And I like games that are local. I think that there are enough games about saving the world. We need games about saving a moment, saving a feeling. And I would like the games to be sustainable, because we need to sustain our creativity. From my story or in my friends' stories, there is a lot of stories about burnout, and it's okay to push yourself to a limit to make a game, but I think it's better to push yourself a bit less and be able to make another game and keep making games. So we are our rarest resource, and we should keep ourselves creators, you know, renewable. Yeah, we should be a renewable resource. So my new take on the Slow Gaming Manifesto is not a path for the industry, because I don't really know what's good for the industry, but I know what's good for me as an artist. So I would like to make games with a sustainable work ethic, based on a local scope, just like Disco Elysium was inspired by something so not American that it make it unique. I would like games that stem from organic inspirations and that deliver a wholesome message. And so I would like make games that matter, and I encourage you to follow the same path. And thank you, because the time is out.
We have time for one question.
Hi there. So are there any communities, you know, where we can, if we're interested in these type of games, where we can go and, you know, see the newest ones that are coming out?
I don't know any communities. I'm trying to to start one, so I'm basically going from conference to conference. I talk about it. I post sometimes something on Twitter, but that's just it at the moment. I think that this is something that have to just grow organically. If enough people think it's something worth to be interested in, something will start. I could send messages with some people around the world talking about it, so maybe something will appear out from it, but it needs time.
Okay, and what's your Twitter handle, so we know where to follow for? You know?
Okay. This is my email.
Okay.
So it's Garnek.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, and
Just a second. So thank you for your wholesome presentation.